Okay, this recording is for week 6, the urinary system or the excretory system. I must confess that I really couldn't find anything in the Bible that I felt was appropriate to read about this particular system. So I'm going to read something else to you. I'm going to read Psalms 20. This is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and as you listen to this, I want you to take this as my wish or my prayer for you as a student in this course. This is Psalm 20. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support. May he remember all your sacrifices and accept your offerings. May he give you the desire of your heart and make all your plans succeed. We will shout for joy over your victory and lift up our banners in the name of the God. May the Lord grant all your requests. So that is my prayer for you today. Before we actually get into the educational part of the video, I want you to take a look at this. This is just a water bottle. It looks bigger than it really is because it's a little closer to the camera than I am. But if I get it back here next to my face, you can see that it's a 500 milliliter water bottle, the same size as most of the bottles that we drink out of when we carry a bottle of water around. So just kind of keep the size of this bottle in the back of your mind. I'm going to now share my screen and get started on this lesson. Okay, so here we see a drawing of the kidney. This outer part of the kidney is called the cortex. The inner part is called the medulla, and then these, of course, are tubes leaving the kidney. What we're going to be talking about today is urine formation briefly, and then one part of it more specifically. The functional parts of our kidney are called nephrons, and so here's a nephron, this little yellow thing here. It consists of a capillary bed, which is called a glomerulus, which is a little knot of capillaries encased in and surrounded by a capsule. That's what the little yellow cup looks like. And then a tubule circulating around like this, and then finally going down this way. So the blood comes into the glomerulus. It gets pushed out of the glomerulus into this capsule, a process called filtration. That's the first step in urine formation. Then the fluid that comes out of the blood and goes into this tubule is called urinary filtrate, or we'll just call it filtrate. After it gets filtered, it's going to pass through these tubes up to where a lot of what we filter out of the blood will be reabsorbed and go back into the blood. And so that's the second step in urine formation, and we call that reabsorption. The last part occurs mostly right in here, and this is when material is put back into the filtrate, not coming directly out of the blood, but instead coming out of the cells that form these tubules. And this is called secretion. And then anything that's left will eventually pass through this duct here and go out and go into the ureter, headed for the bladder. And so here's that tube right here. So urine formation involves 3 steps: filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. We're going to talk about filtration, and the first thing I want you to remember is the size of that cup a while ago, that bottle. That is a 500 milliliter bottle. Now, when filtration occurs, and here we're going to see it happen, here comes the blood up this little arteriole. It comes this way, and then it goes into this glomerulus, and then there are some forces involved that will push that fluid out of the blood into this cup and then into the tubule here. The filtration rate is 125 milliliters per minute. So if you can see me over in the right-hand corner, you see that this bottle is 500 milliliters. So in only 2 minutes, our urinary system filters enough blood out of the circulatory system into the urinary filtrate to fill this bottle up in 2 minutes. That is equivalent to about 2 gallons of fluid per hour. So now you understand why we need to reabsorb. If we were losing 2 gallons of blood an hour, in about 2 or 3 hours, we wouldn't have any blood left. So most of the fluid gets reabsorbed. Almost everything that comes out of the filtrate gets reabsorbed back into the blood. So what we're going to talk about today is the forces that cause this filtration, cause the filtration rate to be so high. Notice the afferent arteriole, which is the one bringing the blood in, is a large, wide, and somewhat open arteriole. It goes into a capillary bed, and then it comes back out through another arteriole. This is one of the few places in the body where we have a capillary bed between two arterioles instead of between an arteriole and a venule. The afferent arteriole going in is big and wide. The efferent arteriole coming out is narrow. Okay. The same thing over here. We see another kind of nephron. Big afferent arteriole, skinny, thin efferent arteriole. Okay, so if we take a closer look at this, we're going to look at the factors that cause the filtration rate to be so high. There's actually 3 things involved. Here comes the blood flow in through the afferent arteriole, and it will go into these capillaries here. Now, these capillaries are a special kind of capillary called fenestrated, F-E-N-E-S-T-R-A-T-E-D. That's a Greek word meaning with windows. So these capillaries have these windows in them, or these big gaps in their wall, so they are extremely permeable. A fenestrated capillary is about 200 times more permeable than a capillary in your muscle or in your brain or any place else. So just about everything that is in the blood can pass through these capillaries, except for the cells, which are too large, and mostly proteins. So the proteins and cells cannot pass through the capillaries, but pretty much everything else can. Now, if we look at the capsule, this is the outer layer of the capsule, which is called the parietal layer. The cells are simple squamous epithelial cells, and they are very, 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 very tightly, strongly attached to each other. So there is no permeability on this outside layer. But if we notice up here, it will reflect inward and then form a layer called the visceral layer, which encircles and encloses and covers all of the capillaries. The visceral layer, however, is made up of special cells called podocytes, which means cells with feet. So here's a cell, here's some of its feet showing, and then branching off of each foot, we see little tiny pedicels, which are like, almost like little long skinny toes. So that means that this layer here, this membrane, the inner layer of Bowman's capsule, is also very, very permeable, more permeable even than the fenestrated capillary. So anything that can pass out of the capillary into through the anything that can pass out of the capillary can easily pass through the visceral layer. The little slits in there are called slit pores. Okay, so let me show you the same thing on this page. Here is an enhanced view of a podocyte, the feet coming off, and then the little toe-like structures. Everything that you see on this picture in blue is part of the visceral layer. Everything you see in red is a capillary. So anything that comes out of the capillaries can easily go into the space between the podocytes. Now here is a nephron that has been dissected out. This is the afferent arteriole leading into the capillaries, and this is the efferent arteriole leading out. So if we back up and look at this picture again, we can here again see that the afferent arteriole is wide open, the efferent arteriole is not. So what that does is that puts a lot of blood in the capillaries, because blood flow into the glomerulus is easy, but blood flow out is restricted. So we have a whole lot less blood coming out than going in. So what that means is the average capillary blood pressure in here is about 60 torr. That's almost twice what it is everywhere else in the body. So the three factors that cause the filtration rate to be so high in our kidneys is very permeable fenestrated capillaries, very permeable visceral layer of the capsule with these little slit pores, and then very high blood pressure, which causes a greater force pushing the blood out than we find most places. And so and that is because of the narrow efferent arteriole. Okay, so I hope you learned a lot during this week, and I will make you a video for next week. Goodbye.